Good evening, everyone. Today is September 26, 2017, Tuesday, Selectmen's meeting called to order. Do I have do I have meetings from the last meeting?
Go ahead. Move to accept as printed.
Second.
Thank you. Department heads, I have Chief Donovan.
Good evening. Since we last met, the police department has logged 1,579 incidents, and we booked 47 people for crimes. There were several events that have taken place in the last month. August 21st, we responded to hate literature, which was placed in the driveways of the folks on Sherwood Lane. That was... The context of it and the timing of it was interesting because there had been the demonstrations in Boston that weekend that pertained to race. Looking into it further, it turns out that these are right-wing newspapers that are printed in another part of the country. There was incidents up in Maine literally the day before. There were several incidents around New England, including in Massachusetts. And there was no indication of targeting any specific persons with hate there, and it hasn't happened since. Also on August 21st, there was a carjacking attempt at a hotel on Route 44. A person was assaulted and someone tried to steal their vehicle. Later in the morning, someone successfully carjacked a car in West Bridgewater, and it was pursued through town, including by us. On August 28th, we had the incident at Med Robotics where a Chinese national went into the building, had 3 laptops, I think in the realm of 10 cell phones, and was attempting to basically steal their intellectual property. The folks there noticed that. They contacted us. Our officers did an excellent job of stopping that and securing that person, getting help from federal government, and the FBI has taken over that investigation. On September 6th, a former employee of a cleaning company at Soco Honda returned to the property and stole someone's vehicle. That vehicle was then used in home invasions, violent home invasions in the state of Rhode Island, and an armed robbery in Attleboro. Our investigation here in Raynham was significant in identifying that person so that he was held accountable in Rhode Island and in Attleboro for those violent crimes. And he was arrested in Taunton that Friday. September 8th, we had a very significant event at .com, a new business on Paramount Drive behind Walmart, where an employee attacked the manager there and slit the person's throat. Luckily, the other people were present at the time and intervened immediately. They did a lot of really good things, the employees there. They did a good job of calling 911. They did a good job of getting hold of our first responders. And but for their intervention, it would have been a horrific tragedy. On the 14th, a 12-year-old special needs child fled from Route 44 from a parent and went missing here in our town. And the police department and the fire department did an excellent job of controlling that. Those incidents I don't usually report to you, but I thought it was important to mention it because in other communities, those kind of incidents have gone on prolonged, and they can sometimes have horrific outcomes. So to have the problem corrected within an hour or two is just really excellent work on our behalf. And on the 14th, we had the bizarre incident of the officers responded to the Walmart on 44 looking for a suicidal female from the city of Attleboro because her phone was pinging in that area. When they got there and they found the vehicle, the correct plate. When they attempted to investigate that further, a female started yelling and screaming at them. When they went to inquire with her, those folks took off and ended up ramming 3 of our police cars and causing extensive damage to one of our police cars. They were not the person the officers originally went looking for. In fact, after they were able to stop the pursuit, they were able to go back and get the fire department there and get the aid for the person who did attempt suicide by pills. And that's what I have for significant events. One thing I omitted, I believe, last I was here, was to respectfully request that Sergeant Bonaparte be appointed a special police officer. He's asked to continue with us on a part-time basis. And if we could do that, I would appreciate it.
Move to accept the appointment?
It's been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Please thank the officers for jobs well done. You've been really busy,
Yes.
and nobody got hurt. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. No.
That's the main thing. Nobody got hurt.
No appointments this evening. Public hearings, we have one application for DEV Corp. Doing business as Coletti's Market. Is anyone here present for this? Thank you. Could you please state your name?
Thank you. My name is Ed Brennan. I'm an attorney with an office at One Church Green in Taunton, representing the applicant. The applicant 458 Development Corp. is the owner of the property. They do business as Coletti's Market. I think we're all familiar with the site. The director, president, treasurer, and the control of the corporation is in Mike Chosky. He is the sole director, president, and treasurer. So he has signed the application on behalf of the corporate applicant. The corporation and its board of directors and its citizenship all comply with the requirements of the statute for the license. This is a beer and wine license to be sold on the premises. The hours of operation will stay the same. There'll be no changes to the footprint of the building, but for the addition of a cooler on the back that will be about, I have the square footage, about 240 square feet of area for the cooler. That will be accessed from the inside of the building. The deliveries will be continued to be made where they are presently being made. The truck sizes will be the same. They have groceries and they have soda trucks coming and meat trucks coming there now. The hours of operation will be the same. There'll be no real significant product within the market being displaced. I asked my client about that, and he had some areas in the back left-hand corner of the building that what he calls dead grocery space, where items that don't move over very fast. So there'll be no real reduction in the product that moves quickly and accommodates the public, the citizens of Raynham. So I think the site is appropriate. I think he has a good reputation in town. He's been running the business since 2002 when he purchased it from Mr. Coletti. And we're asking that this board grant the license for beer and wine to be sold on the premises.
Does the board have anything to say about this?
I would wait to see if there's any input from the public around here.
Does anybody else have anything to say? Motion up. State your name, please, and your
Alan
address.
Day, 12 White Street. 12 White Street is the first house on White Street, so basically I'm directly across the street from the store. We've lived there for about 35, 36 years now. I can't support this license. I just feel that it's the wrong place. Raynham, to their credit, the zoning board has been putting business like this. I understand the store exists, but they've been putting more of this type of business out on 44 and 138 for years and years and years, which is an excellent attitude. A very commercial area, that's where that type of business belongs. However, I also understand that store is grandfathered into our neighborhood. Today, it would never be operating there. I feel that this is a pretty substantial shift in the type of business that they're doing there. And as that they're grandfathered into this residential neighborhood, it seems a shift this size of that type of business shouldn't be taking place on a business that's grandfathered in its existing location, the existing type of business it was doing that also existed when these folks purchased the business. I think this would be a big difference for the neighborhood, also for the store, for sure. It's a very, very dense residential neighborhood there. I'm sure all you folks know where it is, for sure. And I tell you, I've been there 35, 36 years, and typically, over all those years, the neighbors and people I've talked to around me, people come and go. They move in, they move out. Pretty much everyone tolerates the store. They don't embrace the store, they tolerate it. That's nothing against the store. The rules are the rules, the law is the law, the store's there, but it's not something the immediate surrounding people embrace. It's something that they tolerate. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of trash blowing around constantly, there's a lot of trucks, there's a lot of trucks parking on North Main Street. You guys have seen them. It's a lot of traffic. Now we have the new parking lot with the exit directly across from White Street, which we promised would never happen by whatever board was involved at that time. And so now we park trucks right across North Main Street, right across the crosswalk there. We've got the exit from the parking lot coming out there. Occasionally, trucks even park across my driveway in the back. Now, I know these are things that the store can't control, all of them, what goes on outside. I'm just trying to say this is what the neighbors, the abutters, live with daily. I don't think there's anyone in the neighborhood that's looking for more of the same. The store, it is what it is, it's where it is. Those are the rules, those are the laws. We'll live with that. I choose to live there because I like the neighborhood and I like the home that we're in. But we're not looking for more trash, more trucks, more traffic going forwards, for sure. I've talked to a couple of real estate people on the side that I know, and none of this is probably provable, but I think anyone who has had anything to do with real estate realizes the store as it sits right now impacts our real estate in the neighborhood in a negative manner, not in a good manner. There is a lot of people who don't want something like that near them. Not that it's an essentially terrible thing, but there are people that don't want something like that near them, with the trucks, the trash, the slamming doors, the accidents, and so on and so on and so on. Also, the same people have told me that if this license goes through, it will further impact the residential property values in that area, at least for 100 yards around it, at least. So I don't think that we deserve that, especially being as this is a grandfathered store in the wrong place. It was grandfathered as it is. It was bought as it is. I don't think we should substantially change that into something it never was previously or something it never was when it was purchased. Traffic, I mean, just on a personal basis, I have a lot of traffic in front of my house that has to do with the store. In the wintertime, when it's dark early in the morning, I get all kinds of delivery trucks backing in to the freight delivery area. They sit there for 30, 45 minutes with their engine running, with their headlights on. None of them turn their headlights off. Those headlights shine right into my window, in the living room, through the dining room, right into the kitchen. And it happens all the time. Now, I guess anyone could say, why don't you put up some blinds or some shades or something so that doesn't happen? Rightly, I certainly could. But you know what? I like to look out my windows too sometimes. And I feel like I'm always on defense with what's going on across the street. You know, it doesn't seem fair to me. Again, the store is where it is, the laws are what they are. I can live with that, but I'm not looking for more of it, I guess is the biggest thing I wanted to say. I heard what the other gentleman said about hours and footprint and whatnot, but I've been to, I'm not sure what number meeting this is about the store over the last 3 owners or so, and we were promised when the new parking lot was built that the house next door was going to be moved and put down back, and the entrance would never be allowed to be right across from White Street, which all the folks on the board at that time said would be a terrible hazard. Well, the house wasn't moved. The entrance is across from White Street now, unlike what we were told. And I have a feeling that in a few months or a couple of years, if this license goes through, I'm not sure what the right procedure is or what people have to do to change their operating hours, but I have an idea we're going to be back here looking for longer operating hours, because it simply isn't fair that the wine and beer stores up on 44 and 138 are open till, I don't know what the hours are, 11, 12, 1 o'clock, I don't know. But it's not fair that we can't compete with them. I heard what the gentleman said, that there'd be no change. That's about the umpth time I've heard something like that from somebody. I just feel like we're going to be back here again, addressing this with hours later on. That'll mean more traffic, more slamming doors, more people coming and going until whatever hour that is, I don't know. And to be perfectly honest, the later it gets at night with a beer and wine store or a liquor store, the later it gets, you don't start getting better and better clientele in the area. That's simply the way it is. I know it's something no one ever wants to admit, but that's the way it is, in my opinion. Any questions?
I would, if I could, sir, just clarify, some of the comments you made, I don't think they were germane to our board. I've been here for 11 years, and we've never had Coletti's Market appear before us, so it wasn't this board who said that.
Not saying it was.
No, yeah, I just want to,
Prior officials,
yes.
by memory, don't ask me to pull up the names, pull the dates, please.
But no, I
It
just,
would have to be the
Yeah.
planning.
yeah, but you have to recognize that we also have an audience at home, so I need to clarify for our minutes that this board does not have a purview around zoning and planning, and so the boards you're referencing are zoning and planning boards, not this board.
Those things are probably available if anyone is interested,
What do you mean?
To know when it happened.
by record.
No, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not disputing they happen, I'm just saying that it was not this board that you had those
I
conversations with.
fully understand that, and I agree with you. I agree with you.
Mrs. Smith, do you have anything?
No, I don't have any questions from this gentleman, no. I understand your situation and your predicament, but our board is dedicated to a different purpose at this time.
What would that purpose be?
The purpose is, do we or do we not grant a license to a viable business?
I understood that's why we were here, yes.
Yeah.
And that you wanted input from the public
Absolutely.
around them.
Yeah.
No, we always want your
absolutely.
input,
Yeah.
yep.
And I thank you for your input.
Oh, you're welcome, you're welcome. I hope some of the input that people have has some bearing on the decision at some time, but thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anybody else have anything? Yep, absolutely, anybody.
This is my husband. He just said most of how we feel. We've talked about it. Sandra Day, 12 White Street, again, right across the street from the store. I think we've talked about it, and I agree with everything that he said. I think I'd like to just, I know he mentioned the entrance to the parking being right across from White Street, and one thing that he hadn't said, that it is a huge traffic problem, just trying to cross the street to go to our mailbox. Tonight I tried doing it, just picking up trash in the neighborhood, and it's amazing how long you have to wait to actually cross because you've got the corner traffic coming around. It's crazy just with traffic in general. But the entrance to the store, when it ended up being where they told us it wasn't going to be, what happens now is vehicles sit there in the parking lot, and they've now got a clean, straight shot down White Street. So there's revving of engines. Oh, this is great. This is now, a drag race, a drag strip. And that's what it has become. And I just want to say that it's unnerving to know that something was set and then it wasn't followed through with. And then the other parking area on the other side of the street, which my husband really didn't touch on, there is a sign there that says that it's like private parking on that side, and that's how it was stated. There are 2 spots there for handicap spots, and it's basically for the trucks supposedly to back in to deliver. If you are there on our property and watching the store, unfortunately, as people will do, they all pull in and they all park in the 2 handicap spots. And it's a nightmare over there. The sign that's actually there that says that that's a private parking area, it was actually hit within 2 weeks of it going up originally, back when all the modifications were made, and it's bent and turned the opposite direction. So it's been like that for years now. But the traffic on that side is just as bad as the other side because people, again, don't follow the rules. But that is where all the headlights and so forth come right through our house. And we always know what time it is at night, at 9 o'clock, because then the lights from the employees coming with the headlights that are parked over there are all shining through. well, in my face. But anyways, again, I do agree with everything that my husband said tonight, but I felt it was important to know that White Street is a very busy street with the schools down the end and the buses, and it has become a drag strip, unfortunately, because of that particular situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sir?
My name is Joseph Maley. I live at 486 North Main Street, which is directly beside Coletti's. I have a couple of concerns. I'm concerned with security and safety for my 13-year-old, if there is a license granted for that. I'm concerned about the added trash that goes down the easement between our buildings, which is a water runoff, which runs down into King's Pond, which is my backyard. There's a lot of trash back there. Just concerned with future. My mother now lives beside us, but that is a rental unit, and I will have an opportunity at some time to rent that unit, and if I have to deal with the complaints of the trash coming at 4:30 in the morning and dumping that dumpster, my mother complains all the time of all the noise, the trucks, the idling, the fumes, the things that go in and out of that building, all the trash that people seem to sit and on the side of that building, and with their doors open, the trash just flies everywhere. It's all over my front yard. It's everywhere. And then you're going to add a second dumpster for all the cardboard that's going to be taken out of there from all the packaging and everything else that goes with it. And that's the only thing I'm concerned with. Business is a business. If he wants to do business, he's been grandfathered in, he's allowed to do it. But I'm more concerned with the safety of that parking spot right beside my house that people go in and out of. My mother's confronted people on several occasions and has been confronted by somebody in that parking lot. She's 80 years old, and I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything? No?
Just want to clarify one point. I was in error when I mentioned the square footage of the new pool that would be added on the back. It's actually 145 square feet. The 200 plus was the area within the store that would be used for the display of the beer and wine, if the license were to be granted. We certainly recognize the concerns of the neighbors, but we're adding a product. We're not really changing the use of the store. They're adding a product to the store which requires a license from this board and from the ABCC Commission at the state level. So we're not increasing the size. We're not increasing the hours of operation. If there are issues with, as this gentleman said, with his mother being confronted by someone on the property, there should be, the police should be notified right away. There should be reports of that, and there should be measures taken. We're not aware of any real problems. The trash can certainly be addressed if that is a problem. They can take extra steps to try to collect the trash off the property and make that a little better. We can't control everyone who's coming in and out of the property, but when they're in the store and the activities on the premises, if we become aware of them, we can certainly address those concerns. But we are asking that the license issue. The store is very popular. There's been a petition submitted by 93 people, 64 of whom are registered voters, and that's been certified by town clerk. So I think it reflects that there is an interest in the public being served by if this license is to issue. So if I may, could I submit this to the board?
Yes.
Can I ask a question, please?
Absolutely. Could you go up to, because they can't hear you at home if you're not up at the microphone.
I'm just curious. I'm not aware of this petition. Nobody approached me with a petition. I'm wondering why that would be. I'm wondering if they got more than a week to circulate this petition and get it organized, as I got a week before receiving a piece of paper in the mail that said this was happening this evening. Nobody approached me with a petition. I'm wondering why. And how long has that been being organized and put together before anyone knew anything about it? I'm just curious.
Okay, Mr. Brennan?
Yeah, the application was filed, I believe, in around August 28th with the Board of Selectmen's office. I understand the signatures were gathered as a result of a petition that was inside of the store. So as customers came and went, if they were in favor of it, they would sign the petition. And then we had it certified by town clerk to make sure we had registered voters on there and how many were registered voters. So this was within the store, and the application's been filed since, I believe it was August 28th, and then we had the notice sent out as required by the statute.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yep.
Why weren't any of the neighbors included in this petition?
Are you asking us, sir? Or the-
Yeah, I'm asking whoever can answer that question.
We don't tell people to do this. It's a citizen's petition. We don't get involved in that process.
Okay, I was just curious.
Our requirement is the notification that you received. And that requirement is on the applicant to do, which he's done, and within that time frame. Any citizen, anybody in the audience can do a citizen's petition for anything, and this board can't tell you to do it or to not do it. It's your right as a American citizen.
I have a question.
Yeah.
My name is Tracy Maley. I also live at 486 North Main Street. I have an extreme concern for my mother-in-law who lives next door. She's 80 years old and doesn't need this kind of harassment at this point of her life. The noise, the banging of the trash cans, the filth, the smell, the cars, the young kids with their motorcycles, the racing up and down the street is ridiculous. Where are you going to put a big, huge cooler if you're not changing the footprint of the building? We have a major concern. I have a 13-year-old daughter. I don't think she needs to see this type of activity going on. It's not right, and it is not what I brought her to Raynham to see. As we said, business is business and it has to go on, but this really needs to be kept under wraps. 44, 138, there is more than enough alcohol in this town. We don't need any more in the middle of a residential neighborhood. We have enough problems with speed and people and trash as it is, and it has to stop. This isn't right, and it's killing our property values. And I'd like to also know how many of those how many that signed the petition live in that area. Do you all live within the sound of these rambling trucks, dropping cans, trash, listening to it? They're not. They can go a half a mile away and they can go home and they can shut their doors and they don't have to acknowledge it, but we do. All of we abutters have to listen to it, and it has to be kept under wraps. Thank you.
Sir, did you have another question?
I was sitting here thinking, the petition really threw me over there, and I was just wondering, before the decision is made on this, can I get time to circulate a petition?
You can request that, so the board can do one of three things. The board can take this under consideration, which essentially tables it. The
Yep.
board can vote no, and the board can vote yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm one of three members, and I can't speak for my two colleagues, but you most certainly can ask this board to take it under consideration, which would provide you time to explore options. I can't vote no just to give you time to do a petition, but you can ask me to consider taking it under advisement so that you could explore your options.
I would appreciate that. The reason I say that is I was given basically 7 days. Go to the mailbox, this is what's happening, it's Tuesday. And it sounds like this has been a well-orchestrated event that's been going on for weeks, if not months. That everyone made a very good effort to keep everyone in the dark, all around them. The only people that would really care. So I'm just wondering, I mean, do we get any time to respond, or is... I mean, handing over a petition with signatures on it is something I can't do, because we had no knowledge of this until last week, which I consider very short notice. I'm sure you're well within the law, but I consider it very short notice.
Thank you, Mr. Day.
That's all I have, thank you.
Mr. Josh, you would like to address the board?
My name is Mrugesh Choksi. I'm the owner of Coloris Market, and I heard the concern from the neighbors and everything, but I think I'm here for 15 years now. 2002 I bought the business and everything, and I figured they would come up to me if they have any concern or question about anything, and I would have corrected. As a neighbor, I thought I had at least get little bit of rights to listen to them, and I don't mind hearing them any wrong or right thing, what I'm doing there or not. So in this application, we got it on a 12th September, so it's not a last week. Everybody got it on a 12th September with certify.
That's wrong.
I got it on 12th September, so I don't know when you guys got it.
Last week.
And
Green card last week.
And the petition thing, a couple of customers asked me that why don't you do petition and have people sign it, whoever wants to write a yes for. So I started doing last Friday actually. It's only 5 days. I put out the paper to whoever customer came in, and I asked them that if they agrees on my decision to apply for beer and wine, so you can sign, and that's how I did it. I didn't go to anybody's house, or I didn't follow anybody for it. I just asked all the random customer, all the neighborhood people, and 95% of them lives in Raynham, and 64 of them, like you said, they are all registered voters. So, and any other concern, even if I don't get a license, I like to solve the problem if they have any problems. They can come out and talk. After all these years, I think 15 years for me now, you can come up to me and tell me, so if you have any problems. So that's all I want to say right now. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to, this is an addition of a product to the small deli grocery store that's complementary to that type of store. If you drive around, throughout New England, you'll see a lot of these little delis around, and most of them have a beer and wine component to them. It's not a package store, so, it doesn't have the full service of all the liquor and alcohol, and it's not the sole purpose for which most of the customers will go there. They're there for what they've been going there for since, I think it's been a market since probably, I know from the early 60s. I don't know before that, but I know it was a market in the early 60s, and it's evolved ever since. And yes, it's increased in its size, or maybe not the size of the building, but it's gotten busier than it was, I'm sure, in the 60s. But if it's busy, then there's a need. So I think what this board is charged with is determining whether or not this fills a need within the community, and is it appropriate to put it at that site, and is it appropriate to give it to this particular applicant. And I think we've satisfied those inquiries and those issues with the board, and I would ask the board to grant the license as requested. It's hard to run a small business. We all know that. This is a valuable component to that will help the store continue. So we recognize the concerns of the neighbors. Some of them are very serious. If this gentleman's 80-year-old mother has been accosted in her yard, I would think that would have been brought to the attention of my client and the town officials. I don't know if that happened. But some of those accusations are quite serious, and I'm not aware of any official action to remedy anything like that in the past. Certainly we can address the trash. There isn't a change in the footprint but for that 145 square foot cooler that will go out the back. So the building itself stays the same, but that will be bumped out on the back or added on to the back, accessed from the inside. So I would ask the board to grant this application and allow the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission to review it at the next level.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
Mr. Brennan?
Mhm.
A question. This cooler that you speak of, there's no way that cooler can be, or a cooler can be inside the store?
Probably, that would require quite a renovation to the building, I think, to bring that inside the four walls of the building. I mean, it would bump out 8 feet in the back. Along, not facing any of the neighbors, not facing the street. So you won't see it from the street. It would be, you won't know it's there. The deliveries will be made from the same place, and then the delivery will come through the shop, through the store, into that cooler. So it runs along the length of the back of the building, not the full length, but it bumps out into the back. And 145 square feet is the total area.
Can I add?
Sure.
Actually, the new cooler is not, we're not going to extend the building or anything.
Right.
Nothing. We're not taking extra permit or anything to extend. It's inside the store. There is a room on the side of the existing cooler right now. Enough room to put another walk-in cooler there for a new product. So we're not extending or adding anything to the existing property. No, nothing. No. Thank you.
Thank
So I stand corrected on that, and that cooler will be within the existing footprint of the building.
Thank you.
I have a question. Where are the existing mechanicals going to go for that cooler? On that driveway side?
No. It's inside and the back, if I need it outside. Because the back is open there.
The back is open. I'm concerned with noise.
I totally
That's all.
understand.
Ed, and that question for you. Anytime we have a new applicant, one of the questions that we ask, and it's not in any way to diminish the concerns of the neighbors, but I want to ask it because it wasn't addressed. What has your client put in place regarding serve safe and checking of IDs? He's a new applicant who's never served alcohol in town before, and as you know, this board takes that very seriously. So if you could walk us through.
Sure. Well, he doesn't hold a license now, but he previously did have a store with a license in another town, and he operated that for a number of years. So he has experience in that area of controlling and making, checking the proper IDs, and they'll be fully prepared to do that. He has experience in running a beer and wine license.
Are you aware of any violations at the past location?
Yeah, I'm aware of none. I think that was a question on the application, and the answer was no.
Okay.
Yeah. He sold that license a number of years ago and doesn't have it, but he has experience in it.
Is it just Mike and his wife who work at the store, or are there other employees?
Oh, there are other employees.
Will they be
employees,
trained
But they
as
are the
well?
only owners, so they would
Yeah.
have to put into play whatever training's required
Yeah.
to properly card and make sure the products are not sold to a minor.
Yeah.
But he didn't have any issues with that under the prior license.
So, we've done a lot of liquor license requests over the years, and over the past 2 years in particular, there's been a large demand for new licenses in town, for whatever the reason is, and I think this is a unique application, in part because of its location, in part because of the footprint that exists there now, and I can't necessarily say I'm against it, but I also have concerns based upon the feedback from the neighbors and from the residents. And what I try to like to do on stuff like this, when we have those concerns, is to give the applicant some time to see if they can work out some of the issues with the neighbors and come back to us in a week or two and say, here are some of the things that we've proposed, and get some feedback from the neighbors to see if any of those are amenable. Is that something that you would be open to, Counselor?
He's been there for 15-plus years, so I think he can certainly approach the neighbors and see if they can come to some agreement to address their concerns.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned about the accosting of an 80-year-old woman and had never heard of that before. We're not aware of any report of it or anything, so that's a serious incident.
Sure.
But we're not aware of anything. We have no knowledge of anything like that happening.
Yeah, I mean, again, not to diminish that concern, because I wouldn't want it to happen to my mom or my grandmother, but I think that's an issue we have to refer to the police department, and we would always encourage anytime an incident like that happens. My very large concern are the questions around the noise, the traffic flow, and the litter. And what I'd like to see is if we give you a week or so, Counselor, if you can sit down with some of these neighbors and come up with a plan that's more palatable for them, whether it's, receptacles outside, I don't know, whether it's hiring a company once a week to go out and clean, but to have that dialogue, because what we're hearing here is these neighbors don't feel like they've been heard.
I agree.
Yeah, it'd be helpful to know what complaints have been lodged with my client over the past years, and what's been done about it.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe have like deliveries done at a certain time when it's not early in the morning, maybe after 7, 8 o'clock, or put the receptacles more out back so it's not abutting their property, so it's more in the back of the property. Just,
let us take a look at it.
So I just want to let everybody know that nobody here is against business, number one. We had a business that we recently sold. I totally understand business. I totally understand that this is there. I know it's grandfathered in. One of the major things I think that maybe we didn't really bring up was the fact that years ago when they were redoing 104, we used to have terrible trouble prior to that with our property because our side yard became a picnic area. And so my husband went when they were doing 104, and we fought hard, and we got the granite curbings for the side of our yard. Because seriously, we would look out our window any day of the week, and they would be going in, buying subs, and coming and sitting on our lawn, and then leaving the trash, and driving up on the lawn. And luckily, with the curbing, that was a help for us. That was a real help for us. I mean, I kept joking I was going to put a picnic table out there. I mean, seriously, it was that bad. When she talks about, customers of the store, I don't know the particular incident, with his mom, but I know myself. And I know that I had to confront many people previously out there that just thought our yard could be used as a parking lot to go into the store. So the change in the store came about with the property itself back when Ernie owned it and 104 was being reconstructed. So at that time, they told him that the front of the store, they were no longer going to, I don't know what the feet are, but they no longer were going to leave the openings to 104. His business was going to close because he was not going to have any parking. Just like they did Tedeschi's, how they have it curved up there now. That's the law. I don't know what the requirements are. He was going to lose all his parking. He came to the neighbors. He discussed it with us. And he was able to, fortunately, buy the house next door. And he was able to have a parking lot. That parking lot never went with the store originally. That was not there. The parking was just in front of the store. He added on an apartment to the back of the store at one point, and the house that he purchased, which was not business property prior, is now an apartment, which he rents. Which, if you want to talk about police being around, if you're honest, there has been trouble at that apartment, and that's part of our concern. We have been told that drugs have been sold out of there, the police have been there, and I'm sure that's something that could all be looked up on record. I don't have the dates or the minutes, but that is a concern, and that's why we don't want to see any further issues there. But we were for business. We allowed the parking to go in, we all met, there were changes made, and our concern is when is enough enough, I guess is what we're all trying to say tonight. That we have been good, we have made adjustments, and we just don't feel like adjusting anymore. Where does it end, I guess is what I'm saying. Because we do now have rental property that we didn't have before. We have had issues, we have had the police cars there. We've been told there's been issues. So, yeah, we are really concerned. Thank you.
So I think,
No, I think that Mr. Pacheco has said it quite well. And I do think that if they get together, they may be able to do something regarding the trash and the delivery and whatever else is bothering the people. So you're saying no, sir?
Well, the only reason I say that is I understand what you're saying is what you heard, which I heard also, but there's many things What we're talking about here, I think, as a collective group is,
Have them go to the mic.
I'm sorry, is we're not looking for more traffic, more slamming doors, bigger parking lots, longer hours, more rental property, and on and on. This is a business that was grandfathered into the neighborhood like this, and it's grown, it's grown, it's grown, it's grown, and now, if anyone here doesn't think adding beer and wine to that store is not a major shift in business, I find that very odd, but maybe it's just me. But that is going to draw more people, more trucks, more noise, more slamming doors. That can't be fixed. That's part of running a business. But this isn't just about the store. There's a whole group of people that live around that store that call a place home. You know, and the store keeps getting bigger, and we keep adding more things to it, and more parking, and what about us? What about us? That store was grandfathered in for what it was at the time. That store was purchased by this gentleman behind me for what it was when he purchased it. Grandfathered into the neighborhood. That doesn't mean it can continue to grow unrestrained over the years in every direction. You know, that stuff can't be fixed. And again, like my wife said, I am not anti-business, I am 100% pro-business. The more business, the better, in the right places, the right locations, without stepping on somebody else's toes or ruining their property values. I mean, I know you folks can't say anything, and I would never expect you to. You all know what that store does to the property values around it. You know what a liquor license, beer and wine license, is going to do to the property values around it. What's next? Add on a liquor license 2 years from now? Extend the hours a year from now? You know, what about the neighbors? Where does it end?
So,
Yes.
if I could just, to clarify, there's two fundamental components in Massachusetts that a local authority can be overturned on. One of them is 40B, which is housing, and the other is alcohol. And so this board has an obligation, not just to the five of you here and to the applicant, but to the entire town to do our due diligence. And what I heard you ask earlier was for some more time to explore stuff, and that's what I'm inclined to give you. I'm not inclined to deny the request tonight because I don't believe that anybody has met the burden to deny it. And what I mean by that is state law is quite clear, statute is quite clear, and that's why Attorney Brennan made a point multiple times to talk about the three parameters that we have to approve a law on, okay? And if we deny it simply because of its location, they can appeal, and I would guess they would be overturned and then given the license by the state. Whereas if we work through this process and try to address some of your concerns, it actually gives you more of a voice and more power and influence in the process. If this board denies it tonight, I have no doubt that Attorney Brennan will appeal it because that's his obligation to his client and that the state could overturn it. And once that happens, it's out of our control. And so my suggestion to you is if the board's so inclined to take some time, meet with your neighbors, do your due diligence, and talk to the applicant and see if there's some ways that you can work out some of the issues that you have. But I have to be honest with you, I'm not inclined to deny it tonight because I don't think I have the grounds to. That's not to say in 2 weeks, if you come back, I won't vote to deny it. But right now, there's not enough, according to my interpretation of the statute, to deny it lawfully.
So really, the liquor license is going to be issued. All we're looking to do here is appease the neighbors
No, sir.
and make them happy.
I didn't say that, and I don't think it's fair to come up with that assumption. I just got done saying that I'm not saying I'm going to approve it, but I'm saying that I have a state law that I'm legally bound to abide by, and I'm trying to give you some time to talk to the applicant, and I would suggest you take that, because I don't believe the burden has been met to deny it tonight. And if we deny it, and they appeal it, and they win, the license goes through without any conditions. This board can put conditions on a license. If it's overturned and the state issues it, we don't have that control. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I'm going to support it. I never said that.
I heard you. I heard you loud and clear.
We've addressed him before about the trash and the noise and waste management at 4:30 in the morning, and we got no response. It's not his concern. He sends somebody out with a leaf blower. He blows off the front. I've got cigarette butts, packs, cellophanes, scratch tickets, you name it, we've got it in the front yard. That doesn't. Now add beer wrappers. And then my backyard doesn't even get seen by him. He doesn't, it's not, he has shown no interest to clean up the neighborhood.
So maybe now there's an incentive to do that. And again, I can only speak for myself. I'm not saying I'm going to approve it, but what I'm saying is take some time, talk to the applicant, and come back in 2 weeks. And if you all can say that you couldn't come to a consensus, then that's something that I would consider. And again, I can't speak for my two colleagues, but the applicant is asking for something right now, and you guys are abutters, which is why you got the notification. And so you're in a position of power. And so I would suggest that you use that position of power as leverage to get, or try to get, some of the stuff that you're concerned about addressed. I live on Hill Street, so I have 2 convenience stores that I have to pick up nip bottles for every day. So I sympathize with you. I know exactly what you're talking about. But what I'm trying to say is use the opportunity I'm trying to give you and see how it can work and if you can be proactive. Because if we deny the license, you're still going to have the litter. So if you can use this as an opportunity to fix some of the problems, why wouldn't you?
Can I just ask a question, just because I don't know the answer, and you probably do?
Yeah.
A business like this, what we're talking about, that at one point in time, zoning came around, probably back in the mid-'60s or something, I don't know. And it was grandfathered into where it is because it's non-conforming,
Yeah.
according to the code that was set up. Is there no restraints on a business like that going forward? That business could slowly keep going until it was a market basket?
No.
There?
So it's called a legal non-conforming. And when you have a legal non-conforming and you make changes to it, there has to be a determination whether they're substantial or insubstantial. If they're determined to be substantial, then the zoning board and/or the planning board have to have a hearing. And my guess is those were the meetings that you had previously referred to. When they were trying to do changes, there were hearings based on those proposed changes.
Likely.
And then the local authority is able to make a determination based on the facts presented and the plan presented as to whether they're going to approve the changes or not. So that's the checks and balance on the ability for a legal, non-conforming business to grow or not. We don't handle, unfortunately, or fortunately, we don't handle zoning issues at this board.
Fortunately.
Yeah, so I hear your concerns. I don't sit on the zoning board. We do appoint the zoning board, but
Yeah.
none of us sit on the zoning board. That's where those issues are taken up. And again, unfortunately, only when a proposal is brought. But we have a unique opportunity here, I think, to have this dialogue, and regardless of whether the applicant is awarded a license or not, maybe something productive can come from this, because the applicant is hearing, at least from me right now, that I want him to communicate with you and maybe try to rectify some of the concerns that you have.
Does that help?
Thank you.
So, yeah, we'll be happy to meet with the neighbors through me or directly with my client, however they would like to do it. There have been changes out there over the years, and you reminded me that a lot was driven by that reconstruction of 104, because the parking, the curb was going to go in the front, and I think Ernie may have owned it at the time, and he was going to be out of business, as you said.
And we were gracious enough to work with him.
That forced his hand to try, I think, to get that house next door and to try to put the parking between those two houses. It was do or die at that point in time. And I'm glad you got the vertical granite curbing to keep the cars off your lawn. So a lot has happened out there. Let's, if you want to put this over for 2 weeks, let's see what can
Perfect. We'll put
happen
it
in
out
the
for
next
2
2 weeks, and then we'll
Yeah,
come back.
If you could come back.
I motion to table for 2 weeks.
Second.
It's been tabled for 2 weeks. We'll see you back in
Okay.
2 weeks.
Thank you very
Perfect,
much.
thank you. We're going to take a short recess.